Peace be with you. I want to say that I stand with and support the Asian community as they stand against anti-Asian sentiment and racism and the many attacks that have been perpetrated against their elders during this last year. The second thing that I want to say is I'm sorry for not commenting on this, for not making a video, for not saying anything when I first heard about these attacks over a year ago. I could make a million excuses, but there really isn't any. Silence always favors the oppressor and it never helps the oppressed. And I know that as a black person. So saying that, it's only a few isolated incidents or it's not widespread, that wasn't what the world needed at the time. That wasn't what my Asian friends and brothers and sisters needed. They needed me to speak out the same way that we all need to speak out at this time. Now, this video is primarily going to be directed at my black brothers and sisters, not the least of which because some of these perpetrators, some of these attackers are African American, and that is disappointing, disgusting, demoralizing, and it's a disgrace to our community. The fact that in this moment, where social and racial tensions are, black people can be the ones attacking other minority groups is just ridiculous. You might as well stand right there with the same Trump supporters who are attacking us, who are dehumanizing us and devaluing our lives, because you're doing the exact same thing based on this insanely stupid sentiment that COVID is somehow to be laid at the feet of Asian Americans who were here when it spread. It's baffling and it's sickening. There's no excuse for any hate crime, and there's not anything else that needs to be said about that. Those actions taken by anyone of any race are to be condemned outright. But more importantly, I think that we as black people have a responsibility to speak up right now about these issues. The time to speak up was a year ago when we saw elders being attacked in this country. The time to speak up was last August when a woman in New York was literally set on fire for no reason other than the fact that she was Asian American. But the time to speak up is most definitely now, that the voices are being heard and that Asian Americans are beginning to cry out against these acts. We have an obligation to speak up against this as well. Last summer, during the Black Lives Matter movement, we saw people in countries around the world stand up and support us and support our humanity and advocate for things to change for us. Now, one of my favorite quotes, and I might overuse it, is from Martin Luther King, who says that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That means that Asian people being attacked, the same racist president who was against us, him calling this the China virus, the Hong Kong flu. Yeah, the virus obviously came from China, but he knows fully well that Asian Americans were facing more attacks, more discrimination, more violence because of COVID. Continuing to call it the China virus doesn't hurt the Chinese government. It hurts Asian Americans here who are going to face heightened discrimination and heightened attacks. When we saw people in Japan, in South Korea, in countries with minuscule black populations standing up and marching in their streets for our lives, we celebrated and we appreciated it because we knew it doesn't have to affect you for you to stand for it. It's a simple matter of humanity. So right now, when we see 84-year-old Asian men being murdered, when we see people attacked and brutalized, we should speak up because it's what is right. Period. It doesn't have to affect us. It doesn't have to be the things that directly hurt us. But in this case, it is, because the same system of white supremacy that devalues Black lives validates attacks on Asian people and silences it. The same system of white supremacy that kills our children, that has oppressors roaming the streets in siren cars, is the same system that has racial slurs painted across buildings across from Asian schools. We're in the same fight against the same system. To ignore it and only advocate for the things that benefit us means that we don't truly stand for justice, equality, or progress. We only stand for those things when they benefit us. And please do not tell me, because this is what I always hear, but Asians are racist too. Listen, anti-Black sentiment is a troubling aspect across cultures around the world, and that issue does need to be dealt with. Anti-Black racism in the Indian community, Arab community, Asian community, these things need to be dealt with. Absolutely. But do not let that be an excuse to ignore oppression, to ignore violence and hate crimes, and then expect someone to speak for you when it happens to us. Injustice anywhere, oppression anywhere, racism anywhere must be condemned, must be spoken against, and must be undone. Period. Dealing with racism within communities does not mean that we should ignore racism against those communities. So whatever happened to you in that nail salon or in that store or in that restaurant or in your life, that is not an excuse to pretend like these issues don't matter. Children are being stabbed, people are being murdered, people are being assaulted, and it matters. So please, wherever you are, whoever you are, please use your platform to speak about this issue. I love you. Stay blessed.